Okay, I think everybody's settled in, right? Are we all settled? I'm not, but are you? Okay, we've got a couple of people coming in, so I will start. My name is Heidi Honeycutt, and thank you so much for being here today for this panel. These women are a combination of people I've known for a very long time, people I've known for not quite so long a time, but all people that I know and admire and whose work I know and whose work directly inspired a lot of the book I spit on your celluloid. So one of the things that's sad about my book is that there are so many women in it who are no longer with us or inaccessible, or we just don't know about their films, we can't hear about their films, and that's really sad, so we have to do a lot of guesswork. But we're very, very lucky to have these filmmakers with us, because they're right here, and we can ask them directly, and they can tell us, and we don't have to be in the dark and make any guesses. And to me, that's the most valuable thing as a journalist. So, I also have to express my sincere, heartfelt gratitude to every single one of you for being here on this panel. You're here to support the book, and that means so much to me. So thank you. I really appreciate it. And you may, I don't know if you know it, but it made them all show up. So that was part of it. I was like, how can we make this as best as we can for the audience? And I think a big part of that is talking to some of the filmmakers themselves. So thank you. We have a lot of panelists that we're going to talk to, so we are going to talk to one at a time. I have prepared a couple little video clips of their works. If you're not familiar with it, you can see it before we ask their questions. But before we do that, I actually have a video teaser for my book that I made. Because, yes, the book is a history of women directing horror movies, but what does that really mean? And I feel like this 4-minute clip, so bear with me, gives you kind of a good idea of what's in that 464 pages. So if you weren't able to buy the book today, this will also give you a better idea of what you can get if you are going to buy it in the future. So Johnny, if we could go ahead and roll that would be awesome.
Let me tell you first about a movie that I finished about 6 months ago called Satan Was a Lady. It's excellent, because Satan really is, she really was a lady.
I'm sure of that.
Like scary movies.
Uh-huh.
Will you retire?
When I die. And even then, I may make films in hell.
This is great.
The most interesting movies are fueled by a sense of personal experience.
Jennifer, are you all right?
She's actually evil, not high school evil.
If it doesn't work, I'll just put him back to sleep.
She's waiting to love you to death.
Love me.
This is an autobiographical movie. I've tried everything to move on.
He hasn't eaten anything for a long time.
Ben Franklin once said, eat to live. Don't live to eat.
Well, life goes on after all.
I'm so glad you're here to take care of us, to make sure we're safe.
It's just a book. It can't hurt you.
I wish I could be up there with you.
Lean back a little more.
I love horror because it connects us to the mythic. Horror films are giving us a place where we can talk about death and spirituality.
May the Lord make his face to shine upon you.
Butchery, sadism,
There's a dark space in your soul, a little piece of death.
Their torment binds them together.
A wave of depraved and corrupt horror
video. Mexico has amazing folklore and culture. We look at death differently.
I have to kill a lot of people!
Doris, are people when they know your films, are people surprised when they finally meet you? That
why be surprised?
Yeah.
So, as you can see, some of the clips that I used in that are really low resolution, and that's because a lot of the films are hard to find, and they're not distributed in many countries, and some of them are even considered lost, or just some pieces of them are available. And that's kind of what I'm talking about lost film history. So this is hopefully my contribution to making sure we don't lose more than we already have. Oops. Hold on, I got it. So the first clip and panelist that I want to talk to is Toby Poser. So Johnny, can we go ahead and run our first second clip?
You know why we're called hellbenders? Because we're beards. Have you been in my dreams? If you break my heart, I'll devour you. I just want us to be people. It's not a gift, Izzy. Then why was it given? I'm not afraid of you, Izzy. You will be.
So Toby, you actually have a film in this, or several films in this festival this round. You have Hellhole, which is going to screen next week, right? And then you have a short called Plastic Smile. That's part of the Tales from the Void anthology, which is also screening. So we have another opportunity to catch her current work here at the festival. But one thing that makes you unique as a filmmaker is you work with your family, and you co-direct films with your husband, and you work with your daughters. I want to know, what is that like for you, working with your daughters in a family environment, and what kind of family are you? That this happened, and then you came together to make horror films.
Is this working? Yeah. That's a good question. We're a weird family, and we're happy that way. You know, there's nothing better than getting creative with the people you love. You work hard together, and then you celebrate by going to festivals like this. Sometimes I think we make the films just so we can get to festivals and meet other wonderful filmmakers and people like you who are celebrating us. So thank you. It's a good time. It's a good time. We've been doing it for 15 years, and I hope we keep rocking that way.
Yeah.
How much of your films have sort of an autobiographical slant to them, and what does that mean for working through any traumas that you guys have as a family?
Oh yeah, all of them have an autobiographical beating heart, whether the audience knows it or not. It's stuff that we want to work through. From our first genre film, The Deep You Dig, I was going through reproductive cancer, so let's make a film about a woman who loses her daughter. Growing up, you know, we have two generations. It's not just, when we make coming-of-age films like Hellbender, I feel like it's not just about the kid, it's about the parents. as well. Where the devil roams, Zelda was about to fly the coop, and so we made a film about a family that's literally kind of cut to pieces, and trying to put those pieces back together. The witchy one we're making now, I don't know what that's about. I mean, I do, but I won't go there. But it's some pretty sorceress shit.
Thank you, Toby. And I want you to tell us tell us about Hellhole that's screening, and what are people going to see in this film when they watch it?
Oh, sure. Hellhole, that one is not autobiographical, but we were traveling through Alberta, and there were these old, drilling fields that we were so intrigued by. So we started kind of conjuring up mysteries in the dirt. And then when we were on The Last Drive with Joe Bob Briggs, the producer said, "Hey, what do you have cooking?" And we're like, "We have this great fracking idea, but we could never do it." And they're like, "Let's step in there and help you out." Shutter. So it's a fun, wild rock and roll monster romp. Totally different. We got to work with Todd Masters, with the Monster. It was a beautiful collaboration. And then Plastic Smile is a short that was shot in Canada, in Ontario, that will be part of this anthology on Screenbox. And so both represent our building our families, extending them. And it was great.
Beautiful. Johnny, can you please roll our third clip?
Aquest any a Sitges les dones són protagonistes. Llancem el programa transversal Woman Infant, amb beques, amb presència femenina, amb una madrina de Fantastic Seven, la Mary Harron d'American Psycho. Volem que les dones creadores cineastes s'incorporin a tot el que és la producció, el guió i la realització de històries de gènere en clau femenina. I per això comencem amb un programa de beques de sensibilització, amb una presència extraordinària de totes elles a totes les seccions, i especialment a la secció oficial, on les dones només han tingut un protagonisme bastant reduït en els últims anys, i això que Sitges sempre estem buscant, aquest talent femení, perquè tots en pugueu gaudir.
She is one of the main people in charge of the Sitges Fantastic Film Festival in Catalunya, and I had the pleasure of meeting Monica when she launched the Women in Fan program at Sitges, which aims to promote women's voices and women filmmakers at the festival. And so she has a lot to say about women and women filmmakers, and as a festival director, she has a unique perspective on it. And Monica, can you tell, oh, by the way, I translated that clip, so I hope I didn't, it took me a long time.
It was perfect.
Okay, good. I'm learning.
Your Catalan is improving.
Molt bé. Monica, can you tell us what prompted you to want to start Women in Fan, and what do you hope that it grows into, and what's your goal with Women in Fan at Sitges?
Yeah. I don't know if you know that Sitges is the oldest one festival created in the world focused on fantasy. So 4 years ago, I did a small research about what we saw about women during these 57 years. And I realized that only the 6% of the official selection was directed by women. Only the 6%. 2 times in the history of the Sitges, only 2 films has been in the opening ceremony of Sitges. So it was like, oh my God, if we have some responsibility on this situation. So we started with Woman in Fan in singular, because we believe in every woman in her path, in her world. So the idea is to support them, and our goal is to, as you do, to focus to put the focus on their work, but also to promote the future generations. So that's the main goal that we have. And right now we are trying to focus also in what had happened in the past, because the new generations, they don't give the final step. They don't have enough opportunities from the industry, but also in the schools, And also in general, in the society, they don't believe still that women can be directors of in horror, action, or thriller.
I want to make sure that you get to talk a little bit about the lab that you run for Women in Fan.
Yeah.
And what is that, and what should people know about it?
In general, you can see that there are many problems to break this knowledge and to rediscover the history. I used to use the sentence of Mark Cousins that says that the history of cinema is being written by men, and it has only a male approach. So we had to rewrite. That's why your book is so important, and all the books that we can make about this situation, about this past. We had to celebrate all this work because it's the only way that to break down this gap between men and women. I remember last year, for example, we had Mary Lambert in our festival, and we were celebrating that she was the first woman that has directed a zombie film. And she wasn't aware. I was the first one. yes, because the first one, in fact, it was Glory Katz with Messiah of Evil, but she never appeared in the credits. So it's your honor. And it was incredible because she was so proud that, okay, I've been the first woman directing a zombie movie. So that's more or less the result of this kind of reading about this history of women in directing films.
And that is true. Mary Lambert was the first woman to direct a studio-backed horror movie. And it was because of the success I'm getting a shaking head.
I just can't believe it.
Oh, okay, I thought I was wrong. I was like, am I wrong?
No.
Oh my God.
No, it's just insane. Okay, no, I can too, but it's still like ridiculous.
Yes. But yeah, and it was because of the success of Pet Sematary that a lot of women in the 90s were able to direct studio genre films because they figured out that, yeah, okay, they can make money. So, Johnny, can we run clip number 4?
Watch your back.
Teaser for House of Ashes, which is Izzy Lee's feature film premiere. She's been directing for a long time, but this is the first feature, and you're currently in post-production on it. And I want you to tell us a little bit about the film, but I would like you to talk about how important resilience is as a filmmaker when you're working on a feature, when you're trying to get a feature made, and the obstacles that you come up against.
First of all, I just want to thank you so much for being one of the strongest voices to amplify our voices. And speaking of resilience, by the way, the book that you wrote, you've been working on that for what, 20 years?
Yeah, it's sad.
Incredible. Incredible. Like, that is resilience. You know what I mean? House of Ashes came about as a little bit of seed money from one area, and then I raised the rest on Kickstarter. And I've been pitching features since 2016. I've directed 26 shorts. Not all of them are on IMDb. And it's because I just had to take the reins and do it myself. You know what I mean? And the film is about a grieving widow under house arrest in the ever-terrifying United States of America for having a miscarriage. And while she's under house arrest, a whole lot of really not okay things happen. You know what I mean? You don't know what's real, what's not, who's good, who's bad, and how does she survive if she can't leave the premises? So it it took a lot of work and a lot of years to bring any feature to light. And you have to be really fucking tough, and you have to be really, I mean, any filmmaker is gonna have a hard time getting their story out there, but when you're not the default, it's compounded. And I think every single one of us up here is a prize fighter. You know what I mean? So I'm proud of every single one of you, whether we know each other or not. Hell yeah. So that's resilience right here, look at it, you know?
What would you say is the biggest obstacle to making a feature film?
Oh, it's always the financing.
Always.
Where does the money come from? Can you trust the people who are giving it to you? Will it actually come through? And how little of it do you have? And how do you stretch that dollar? How do you make something from next to nothing? Like, this is a DIY micro budget. There's like blood, sweat, seriously, a lot of tears, and we had a lot of like weird things happen beyond our control, like while making this movie. There were skunks that followed my other half, Steve, around the perimeter, and he got trapped in the studio. Hey, Steve. You know, his stepdad actually passed away while we were filming, and like, because making a film's not enough of a challenge, you know what I mean? There was a neighbor jackhammering next door and enlarging his driveway, and it's just, man, every challenge, I swear to God, imaginable. But guess what? It's in post-production, it's almost done. It'll be done within a month. So,
That's a feature that you guys may get a chance to see very soon.
I hope so. I hope we'll start playing festivals this fall. Fingers crossed.
Right on. So Johnny, can we run our 5th clip, please? From a new short film by Maude Michaud. And Maude is a filmmaker that many of you may know because she's from Montreal, and she's been making films for a while. And she has made 2 features, right?
Just one feature.
Oh, just one feature. Sorry, just one feature.
Unfortunately.
But many shorts. I've played her shorts in previous festivals, and I've been following her career for a long time. So, Maude, you sort of took a little break from filming. And then the pandemic hit. And can you tell us a little bit about where this short came from and why you decided to make a short again after making a feature film?
Yes. So, funny, like you say, a little break, because, 10 years ago, actually, I premiered my first feature film, which I made for $20,000, took all of my savings. I was tired of not having opportunities, so I figured I'll create my own opportunities, made a short film, world premiered here, sold out crowd, won an audience award, and I'm like, great, wonderful. Then, fast forward 10 years, things still haven't happened. And for a lot of people, they think I'm like, oh, did you give up? I'm like, no. The reality of it is that over those 10 years, I wrote 4 feature scripts, I created 2 TV series, including pilot episodes, and I've just been trying to work nonstop, trying to get a second feature off the ground. But then the sad reality of it is that, as Izzy so nicely said, it's so hard as a woman to get financing and to get anything made that I just worked relentlessly, but I had nothing to show for it. So at some point, as you said, the pandemic hit, and I was starting to get very discouraged and really questioning my own career. So I figured I'm just gonna go back to making a short because I need to do something. I'm going crazy out there, just writing nonstop and just not having anything to show. And so this is very much a pandemic film. It was a crew of 6 people. Made it in my apartment. Very personal film. I think with that short, I stopped trying to make things that people would want to see, and then I just went back to doing something a bit more personal. So this short film is about, so I have Tourette syndrome, which it took me a lot of time to feel comfortable to be able to talk about it. And when I say a long time, I felt comfortable saying it publicly last year when the short film played. And I realized over the years that the main reason I was so uncomfortable with this condition that I have absolutely no control over is the fact of how it's so widely misrepresented in the media. It's always the butt of the joke. It's always meant as a stupid, like, you know, humor joke, like the funny character that you make fun of. And for me, as a horror filmmaker, I was like, this is, like, for me, it's pretty horrific to live with this condition. And there's 10% of the people living with Tourette are the ones that you see represented, like, which means the swearing and then the like, you know, just gestures. And I'm like, this is not my experience, and why did this 10% become the symbol for the condition? So I figured I'll just do what I do and just create a horror short that reflects what my experience living with this is. So this is why, you know, what you saw is like horror as a metaphor, using the monster to feel like, this is what it feels like for me. Again, I'm not trying to become the spokesperson for everybody living with this, but I figure I'll just put something personal out there. And yeah, just like, you know, use art as a medium to try to like say something and potentially, you know, have people, help people recognize themselves or feel seen. And interestingly enough, when displayed festival, I had lots of people who not necessarily struggle with Tourette, but struggle with other mental conditions, who came to see me and they said, oh, like, I can totally relate, because that feels like this is, I also have a monster controlling me in my daily life. So that's when that just, like, again, reinforced the beautiful power of horror film and of horror as a metaphor to actually, yeah, address difficult subject matter in a way that people can understand, because, you know, you're dealing with strong images.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
It's very personal, and we appreciate it. And these are the kinds of personal stories that I think make the horror genre so special and so accessible to so many of us. So thank you for being a creator of that kind of story.
Thank you so much.
So we're going to do things a little bit out of order than we originally had planned, but it's okay. So I just wanted to let you guys, the directors know, our panelists know, if they notice we're going out of order a little bit, it's under control. If we could run clip number 7.
Can't do this anymore. I need you to hold it together, okay? Just breathe. No. Just breathe. Just breathe. Just breathe. I'm done. I'm done.
From the film Wake Up, which is screening on August 3rd, I believe, here at the festival, so you'll be able to see the whole thing. Anouk, you are one of the directors of this film, and you, like Toby, also work in an ensemble, and you have different people with different ideas and different ways of doing things, but you've managed to all come together as a team. And I want to know a few things. We're going to ask just a couple of things. Which are more than one question, so sorry. But I want to know, you guys had to fight to make this scene what you wanted. And can you tell me a little bit about why you had to fight for this scene, and in what ways did you have to fight, and what was your personal role in fighting for this scene?
Yeah, this one was complicated. This script we didn't write. It was a story written by Alberto Marini, which is a fantastic Spanish writer. And when we read the script, this scene was just so visual in our mind. Like we had, like it was important in our vision for the movie that this scene was made like with I'm gonna tell you a bit about the story, but sorry for the people who are gonna see the movie on the 3rd of August. But these kids are super vulnerable because they are in complete darkness, and it's the fact that they're splashed with the phosphorescent paint that make them vulnerable to the person that's hunting them. So we didn't want to do like the typical scene with black light where you can actually see the people and you can see their eyes, you can see everything. So it's not like it doesn't make sense that they're being, it's not, you know. So we wanted it to be like complete darkness so that only the light would come from the actual paint, which is really complicated and needs like a special paint. And we were shooting on an island in Spain, and everything that came on set had to come from boat. And it was very difficult to actually have like all these the material, like even like the camera and everything. Like, so there was some people that wanted to like do like the typical like paint that, you know, you have like black light and then, you know, everything's blue, and then we would need to go to VFX to remove everything. But we just fought for it, and we had our DP as well, because being in a team, like that's a thing that's nice. Though we have each our own voice in the director teams. I think that's the only way that you can actually sustain the fact that you're a group of people working together for so many years, because we've been working together for 20 years. So you have to make sure that everybody's can be heard in that group. But you also have like a team like to fight with. And we had our DP as well with us, and we actually got the paint like last minute, but it was very, we were excited to have like this thing come to life. Like on set, we actually shot in complete darkness. We had 2 cameras, so it was like a choreographic with 2 cameras in the darkness. Like, so we had to have things planned, but it's so it made it happened. But you know, you have to fight a lot, so because there's, you know, it's like it's the time, it's the budget, it's everything. Like it's always, yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead, Pat. So I'm always fascinated when I hear a filmmaker's story about like a sexism, because, in all honesty, like it's not something that's in your face. Like there are no, like, I'm sure it does happen, but I think in general, nobody's ever like, you can't do this because you're a woman and I don't want you to, because you'll get sued, right? So nobody really says that. So sexism tends to be very subtle, very hard to point out, and it could be something else. It could just be me that they don't like. You never know, right? But every once in a while something happens where it's kind of obvious and it takes you aback, right? And you have an interesting story that I just want you to tell really quick about a time you experienced that and what you felt when it was happening.
Yeah, it's very funny because I work with two guys. They're my families, but we were on set and it was like press day. It's press day. Everybody knows like who we are. We're gonna like this day at lunchtime. We're gonna have like just a couple of journalists coming and just, you know, doing some interviews, taking pictures and everything. And we're the 3 of us, just, you know, when journalists come in and come out and everything. And then the interview starts, and the person doesn't introduce himself to me, but just to like my 2 co-workers. And eventually I said, I'm gonna answer the next question. And he stops and says like, who are you? And I'm like, well, thank you, I'm one of the directors, you know. And yeah, it was a very strange moment, but it does happen. And being in a group with 2 other people, sometimes it's just like, yeah, you're the girl who plays in the short films, but you're actually, no, I'm like one of the directors, yeah. So it's, but I think it kind of builds your resolve as a filmmaker as well, and it kind of makes you, fight stronger and just to have your voice heard. Yeah.
because it gives other people something to understand and hear about when it happens to them and recognize it. So thank you for telling us that anecdote. But before we let you go, even though you do normally direct with two other people, you're about to direct a solo project. Tell us just briefly about that.
Well, yeah, it's a really cool story that a producer came to me with, and it's really centered around womanhood, but also like it's really cool. Like it's a ghost story based on the legend in New Brunswick, where there's a headless nun that's roaming in the forest. So I'm really excited. I pitched it at Fantasia at Cannes, and we're hoping to make this happen in spring. So I'm really excited about this one. Yeah.
Excellent. So Johnny, let's run clip number 8.
Do you hear them? They're speaking to us. They want us. They will slaughter us. They will peel our skin back from our bones. And soon, they will come out from the wall and cut our bodies from this world.
I'm very happy that we have Rioghnach Ni Ghrioghair here today.
Hi.
Did I do that right?
Rioghnach.
Rioghnach.
Thank you.
Sorry. I tried so hard to.
Oh, Irish people don't know how to pronounce it. It's fine.
But the Gaelic language is beautiful, so I'm very happy that
it's okay.
So this is a short film that screened in 2022 at Fantasia, right? Tell us about this film, which is about a haunted composer, right? And how did the idea of a haunted composer come to you? And what does that look like in this film for those of us that haven't seen it?
Wow. I mean, like, even though it's 2 years ago, it feels like a lifetime ago. Yeah, it was a COVID movie. We made it for not that much money. As a emerging filmmaker, I wanted to make something that was very unique to the films that I loved, and the kind of, I don't know, I suppose like immersive, like audio sensory, very disorientating kind of films. And those are the kind of hardest ones to pitch, because all the short movies you could get funding for of significant finance were always ones that were like, you know, very tangible plot points. And for me, I like films where you can intuit and feel the full experience of what the horror is, or what that kind of feeling of dread is. And that can be very hard to pitch unless you've proven you can do it before. So kind of like, you know, even it's probably very telling from the trailer, but like big fan of Peter Strickland movies, and kind of like those kind of 1970s, you know, that just sort of exist in the ether, and they just kind of, you can kind of intuit it and just kind of feel it. So yeah, wanted to make a film like that, and it's about someone who loses her partner and becomes obsessed with the idea that her ghost is still kind of haunting this big house. So she uses her only real voice, which is her music, to try and communicate with her, and in doing that seems to summon some form of ghost from the walls. But what's really happening is that she's sort of kind of exercising her own guilt over cheating on her with somebody else. And it's sort of, yeah, kind of an intuitive plot where each movement of this piece of music sort of gives a sense of a plot point of where it goes, kind of thing.
Awesome. Because you have a unique perspective on things, can you tell us a little bit about the film industry in Ireland, and particularly the independent film scene in Ireland? And do you notice any major differences between that of Canada or the USA?
Oh, 100%. I live in Germany now, which is not a reflection of the Irish film industry, but it is a little bit. It's very hard to be a creative and make money and pay the bills and spend time to kind of focusing on your talent to get better at it. I was a development exec for 10 years in the Irish film industry, so I worked a lot behind the scenes to help other people's films kind of come into fruition. We have a fantastic roster of incredible horror filmmakers, you know, Kate Dolan, Lee Cronin, to name a few, Ashton Clark. I think there definitely is an issue in European, or at least not quite an issue, but a very much a prejudice towards genre, because I feel like it comes from when financiers hear that word, they hear one thing, and they have one idea about what horror could be. And even when it comes to female filmmakers, you find yourself very genreified, or you're bought into the female filmmaker genre of filmmaking, and you have to make it empowering, feel-good, female-focused films of a very particular kind. And I think there's this abundance of amazing stories that, you know, we need to let women make the films that they want to make. And I'm more interested in our flaws and I think my kind of line is I like to make movies about female rage and about what it's like to be a woman in society defined by the ever-present looming presence of male violence and how that makes us feel. And that's an uncomfortable subject because I feel like it's not going to be empowering, it's going to be enraging, and that doesn't fit in with the genre of female filmmakers, stories that people want women to tell in their movies. So I find those kind of things still kind of exist, and you really have to make your case to kind of show that you want to break the mold a little bit. You still want to do it in recognizable, commercial kind of molds and things like that. And yeah, I think the main thing is to create it within a mold that they can recognize and financiers can recognize, but smuggle in your own shit as well.
Beautiful. And let's go with clip number 9.
Please just let them go. They're just girls. They don't need to be involved in it.
I don't think you know how this works, Rosie. That's exactly why they need to be involved.
Yeah, the blood of the innocent, that's the kind of thing that demons love. They practically dine on little girls like you.
But then again, what could be more innocent than a sweet little school teacher?
They gotta feist you!
So we have paired up Heather Buckley and Jenn Wexler together because they have worked together on a couple of different films. And also we have so many panelists, and I really wanted to make sure we got to everybody, so my apologies. But I figured you guys wouldn't mind because you like each other so much.
I love being paired up with Heather Buckley.
So please tell us about your horror collaborations, how they came about, and in particular, Heather, could you address how does the phrase women supporting other women come into play when we're talking about how you two have worked together?
Jennifer Wexler, do you want to start?
I will begin. This is women supporting women. That was so polite of her. She was like, thanks, Heather. I'll begin and then I'll pass it to you.
Nice.
We'll do a little sharing. We both live in New York, and we got introduced to each other through the New York film scene. And at the time, this was like 2015, I had written a script called The Ranger, and actually Jeremy Holm, who plays the Ranger, is right there.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. But I had produced a couple features for Glass Eye Picks, Larry Fessenden's production company, but I hadn't directed a feature yet. I had directed some shorts. And I didn't know how to go about like who I should share it with. I was really nervous about it, but I shared it with Heather because it's a movie about punk rockers, and who better to share it with than this girl? And I shared it with Heather, and Heather showed such enthusiasm about the project and also about me directing this feature. And it wasn't just one conversation. It became I think it definitely took our just like us kind of knowing each other a little bit and made us friends, because Heather was like texting me cool like
But I was
images.
also in your award-winning movie, Most Beautiful Island.
Oh yeah, she was an extra in Most Beautiful Island. She's in the background. Also directed by Anna Asensio.
It won the big award at South by Southwest, just so you know, that you're just not a normal producer, you're award-winning.
Anyway, just having like somebody who actually believed in me, believed in the project, and like it took a lot. That was 2015. You know, we didn't shoot till 2017, so it took a lot of time, and you need that emotional support through. You don't know how long it's going to take. You need to have friends, be surrounded by people who believe in you. And Heather taught me that because she was like #1 in believing in this project.
And Jenn believed in me. So my background, I used to be a creative director in advertising. And the stuff that I would share with Jenn is like off Tumblr, because I'm a Tumblr girl, like images, the bright colors, the music and stuff like that, ideas. And I was always very interested that in advertising that I had to like pitch agency of record project to like MBAs and money people, and it was very interesting to do that for the Ranger to see if the magic would go the other way. And finally Jenn was like, do you want to produce this movie?
But she just started like doing producer stuff without an official, and I was, anyway, I know, it was when we were in Frontiers, we got into Frontiers in 2016 and we pitched here, and I was like, Heather, please be a like official producer on this movie.
It happened. And the movie got financed. But it got financed in a very interesting way, is that, because we're going to talk about like supporting each other. So I don't tell people I need to see cast. I don't sell people, which is like a buzzword for female filmmakers, make sure the movie's execution dependent, which every movie on earth is execution dependent, is that at script level, and Jenn being so talented, and when I read the script, it's like, how do you know the secrets of my asshole punk rock friends? I went in, and I also, I EP'd it as well. So I was the person close to financing on the film. And another Frontiers project, which is Writing Shotgun, is that I did the same as well there. There you go. Love for these stories. Because that's the level of support I give somebody. As I get in car accidents, I sue the people, I use that money to help. That's true. So part of that's car accident money that I help them out, and part of it is like, money from the dead Joseph Buckley. So part of my inheritance.
Also, Heather knows a lot of people, and so the clip that you guys saw was from the Sacrifice game, which played here last year, and that whole story came about because, well, when I finished writing the Sacrifice game, and the first person I shared it with was Heather. It's a demonic boarding school movie, so I also felt like she would understand that.
I have more.
Yeah, and then she had met at Fantasia, not to speak for you, but she had met Albert Malamed and Phil Kalin, who are back there.
Celebrate them, they support women filmmakers.
And she, thought it would be great for them, and then they dug it, and then they were like, hey, let's shoot this in They all decided that. They were like, Jenn, we're gonna shoot this in Montreal. Here's the plan, here's a crew. These guys, thanks.
And they believed it as well the way I act. It's like, they didn't ask about cast, they didn't ask about anything. They're just like, we're gonna make this film because I believe in this film. And Heather Buckley said it was a cool film, so that also matters as well.
And one last shout out is Laurent Pitre, who's here too. And he plays Doug, and he was in that scene that you guys just saw.
Everybody talking about financing. You can have 1,000 panels, you can write 1,000 books, unless you, daddy, open the checkbook and give women filmmakers money, you're never going to change the status quo. So when people say, like, it's a chicken before egg, when they say with cast, which is another thing to dismiss your worth, is, get your cast fucking money, because CAA is not going to look at your project unless you have some money in the bank and it's real.
Amen.
believe in filmmakers, female filmmakers.
And I want to add, I think it must have been, it was before you directed a feature, but I think at one point, this is, I don't know, 10, maybe 10, more than 10, maybe 10 years ago, and you were producing for Larry, and I asked you, and I was interested in becoming a producer, and so I was like, well, Jen's a producer, I'm going to ask her about producing. And I asked you, like, what does a good producer do? Because I guess I didn't know, right? And you told me it was very simple. You said a good producer facilitates the vision of the director and does what needs to be done to make that film that that director wants to make get made. And it was such a simple answer that made so much sense. And I was like, oh my God, like, how did I not know that? But you taught me that. And from that moment on, I've understood what a really good producer does. And Heather, you're a good producer. And you're a good producer, too.
Oh, thank you. Can I say one thing, taking us even further back, which is before I produced anything, when I was just like, maybe I like film, I made 2 very, very, very low budget shorts, and Heidi programmed them in Viscera, which was so, even before Etheria, and being part of Viscera, like, that experience was so cool. Like, making the short, having it play this festival. I went to LA, it was at the Egyptian Theater, and I was like, in my early 20s, my eyes are wide, and I'm like, oh my God, I need to be a part of this world. So Heidi is very, like, I think, thank you for determining my life path with that.
Well, that makes me very, very, very happy to hear. For those of you who don't know, I run a short film showcase called Etheria, which is, just for context, horror, sci-fi, fantasy, action, thriller films directed by women. And it's actually currently on Shudder for the month, if you want to watch it. I think it ends on August 15th. So every year we do a new festival run of new films. But before I had Etheria, way, way back, it's probably 2010, I'm thinking.
I think it was
29?
Like 2012.
Or 2012.
Yeah.
I had a different iteration of the same festival called Viscera, and it was only horror movies, and it was a different time. But I met so many amazing women horror filmmakers through running that festival, and clearly I'm still friends with many of them, including Jenn. So thank you for letting me show your films back then.
Thank
by the
you
way.
for showing them.
Women supporting women. Okay, we are on clip number 10, Johnny. So we are very lucky to have someone who has a perspective from the country of India as a filmmaker. So you were born in India, and you make films that in India, but also in the United States, right? You run a film festival called Wench. Yeah.
You said Wench. It had to happen.
No, okay, there we are. We're back. You run a film festival called Wench. In the United States. I'm not in the United States. In India. Sorry. Okay. In India, that shows women's horror and genre films, and there is no other fest like that in India. And I've been lucky enough to be involved with that a little bit. And Toby, I believe you've been to the festival. So give us your perspective on women making genre films in India, and what differences do you see with the Western film industry? And tell us a little bit about why you wanted to make Wench, why you created it, and what's coming out of it.
Oh, geez.
It's a big question. There's like 4 questions in one.
That's a massive question.
Yes.
I won't take much time. I think I've always been in professions that I did not know were actually very fueled by men. Even when I used to be a really popular hairdresser in India, and I didn't know this till a journalist interviewed me and said, "Hey, how does it feel to be so good in a profession that has only men?" And I was like, "Oh, really? I had no idea." It was only when I got into filmmaking that I realized, fuck, this I feel, because I had never felt that ever. And I think when I started making, my first film was a documentary, and at 36, I think, however punk rock or whatever the fuck you want to be, spirituality just comes and hits you, and you're just like, hey, where the fuck am I from? And that's what happened to me. I'm like, where am I from? And I realized, I was actually the daughter of a refugee, and I'm part of an indigenous tribe, and nobody in the world knew who we were. And so I was like, okay, well, let me tell the story of who we are. And so I interviewed people who had actually witnessed, there's a thing that happened, I won't get into history, partition, and then there was India, and there was Pakistan, and our tribe, where I come from, I'm a Sindhi, that only was on Pakistan side. So it's actually the largest migration of a culture in the world, but nobody knew because we were so inspired by Sufis. They told us, leave, we left. So when there's no bloodshed, nobody cares. They're like, yeah, whatever. So I decided, I was in Berlin, and I saw how beautifully the Jews had documented how they use art, cinema, theater, books to document what happened to their people. And there's nobody in the world that does not know that story. And I thought, okay, I want to make a film. And I think my first film should be this. I'd made many music videos before that, loads. So I interviewed people who had gone through partition. They were like 85, 90 at that point. The last woman that you saw, she was actually still in trauma when she found out that someone is making a film on sin, and she just wanted to see my face. That's her, so excited, yeah. But I decided to take their stories and tattoo them on my legs. So I became the film. I said, if you're gonna do a film, if that's your first film, just become the fucking film. So I became the film. And because I have no access to that land, Pakistan won't give me a visa, I just became the land. Now, having these legs and the stories, I was like, okay, what do I do next? And I was in actually, my relationship wasn't bad, but I was practicing yoga at that point, where I just thought I want to be very unconditional. It's not something I've done before. So I was very unconditional in this relationship, and unfortunately it was taken advantage of. And when the relationship ended, I was like, oh, I want to make a film on this. But I didn't have, all I could say was, oh, I really love that guy, and I would do anything for that guy. Now that's not a story. Like, what do I do there? So I was at this bar, where all my scripts now are being written only at bars. And I was with this cocktail, and this old lady, she must have been like 70-something, and she had this glass of whiskey, and she came up to me, and she said, Sapna. I was like, you know me? And she was like, yeah, I know who you are, and I want to tell you something. I'm like, okay. She said, you need to understand, your money is your money. I was like, okay. She's like, and your boyfriend's money is also your money. I was like, okay, all right, that's great. but she seemed so fascinating. I said, can you role play for me? Because I'm stuck in this script and I'm writing this story. And, you know, it's about this woman who really loves this guy. And then I don't know what happens. And I actually have photos of this because I found this young guy. He was drinking with his young buddies next to me. I said, come here. Do you mind? I just want to role play with this older woman and this guy. And he was all like, yeah, of course. I'm like, so I'm telling her, like, imagine you're completely in love with this guy. And he's like, yeah, you know. I'm like, you'll do anything for this guy. And then what happens, you know? And this woman is like, just taking some more sips. And I'm like, you'd like, you know, unconditional, love, what else? Like a dog. And then she just looks at me and she's like, you know, Sapna, if a dog can be unconditional, that dog can also bite. And I was like, I didn't even think of that. Damn, this yoga practice. And this guy starts getting like scared. She's like, but you know what? I won't bite him. And we're all like, okay. She's like, no. I'm gonna swallow him whole. Okay, you should have seen this guy's face now. And then she's like, and then I'm gonna go on the street and I'm gonna take a big golden shit. And that was the first shot you saw, the golden shit, which I won $1,000 in Japan, by the way, for that golden shit. It was the best shit they'd seen. And I was like, the guy is like, and I was like, golden shit, why? And then she was like, shit because I have eaten him, digested him, and taken him out of my body. And we're like, and golden? Like, why does it have to be golden? And she just looked at me and she was like, Sapna, because that's how I feel. And so my second feature is called My Dog is Sick. It's about a woman who eats her fucking boyfriend, goes out and takes a big golden shit. And nobody, by the time I finished that feature, it was COVID. I was very lucky, actually. It played in New Horizons, which actually is a great festival to have its launch, but then nobody else took it. It's still with me. I don't know what to do with the shit yet, but in the meanwhile, there were just like these 4 guys in India who are known to make films about women constantly, and they get all the awards, all the funding, they go to all the festivals, and they're just the best. And they're sitting on this manor, and they decide to talk about filmmaking. And I was like, so you don't think a woman should have been on this manor? Like, you know, since also your stories are about us. And one of them looked at me and said, yeah, well, where are the women filmmakers? That's how Wench started. Yeah. So I said, well, then let me start a festival that can show you where the women filmmakers are. And I called it Wench because Wench, the original actually meaning was Wenchel, which means girl child. And along the way, and it was great to see that at Witchboard last night as well, they were like, Wench! I was like, yes! It went from racial slur to whatever, prostitute, whatever you want to call us, witch, blah, blah, blah. And the greatest thing is now on Wordle, Wench is a banned word. Yes! And that's how cool we are. But anyway, we have no funding from the government or anyone because people are like, oh, horror films, and then also women. That's crazy. That's absurd. So then we created a man section because we thought, we're very tired of women always having special sections in a festival. Like, why does there have to be a women fucking award? Like, why can't there be a man award? Yeah, so we started a man section. And then proudly, if you're a man making horror films, please submit to our man section. We also have a special man award just for you, so you can feel great. Did I answer everything?
I think you did. Okay, great. I have to confess that I have often wanted to do a version of Etheria that's called Man-Theria, that is only open to men. Who have, everything's the same except it's only open to men, just kind of see what happens. And I'm under the impression that I think men would just submit their films and be like, hey, why not, right? Like, maybe I'll get in. But I also, I don't know, but I'm too scared to do it because I think there might be some backlash.
No,
But I think it would be hilarious.
We have special sections in festivals. We're not backlashing.
And I want to say one more thing. So Etheria goes on Shudder, right? And we always get reviews, and this is my favorite part of doing the festival because a lot of the reviews are like very sincere, normal people just watching, and I liked this film, but this one wasn't up my alley, and I'll give it a 4 out of 5 or whatever. They're real legit reviews, and then like 2% of the reviews are like, why are women alive? Like I hate women doing anything, and 0 stars, and it's so funny. And one of the comments I think was, I'm not sure, but it's in my head, is why can't there be a festival that's just open to everybody? And I'm like, wait, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And I'm like, I think there are some. Anyway, it just reminds me of that. So I think you and I, as festival programmers, and Kayla, you've done a lot of programming too, and Monica, you've done a ton of programming. I think we see things from that perspective also, that like, hey, where are and then we want to go out and find those and bring them to people. Because one of the reasons I started Etheria was because in LA, I heard from a lot of showrunners and a lot of executives, we would love to hire a woman, and this is 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we would love to hire a woman for this TV show or for whatever, or for this Marvel film, but we don't know any, and we don't know how to find them.
Yeah.
We offered it to Catherine Bigelow, and she said no, so what could we do? And so that was why I started my festival, because I was like, well, here they are, like, I'll find them for you, and I never stop because it's really fun and I love it. So thank you for sharing. That was a great story, by the way. I love that. And thank you. Really fun. So clip number 11, please.
Hi, my name is Lily Bai, and I'll be reading for the part of Victoria. What the hell are you doing here? What the hell are you doing here? What the hell are you doing here?
This was good, but let's try something else. Open it up a little bit more. Don't play games with me.
Coming soon. That was 5 years ago.
Yes, that film has already come up. That was a short teaser for a short film. You have a new film.
I do.
Yes. And we could talk about that too. But I want to say I've known you for quite a while as well. And I think the first film that I saw from you came out in 2007, I think, right? Was it 2007?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think it was. So I'm so delighted that you're making these shorts and that they're getting so much attention. It's really beautiful. So you have another short playing tomorrow. Is it tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yes, playing tomorrow.
At 4?
At 4 in The Born of Woman.
Yes.
So you can see her new short tomorrow. And it's actually called Izzy, which has nothing to do with Izzy Lee. It's
it might.
Coincidence.
Maybe just come and see it.
Or we can tell you that it is all about her, and that'll be more interesting. But I want you to tell me where the short Lily came from, where the inspiration for that was. And then I want to know about Izzy, too, because I haven't seen Izzy.
Oh, well.
So I wanted to tell me, tease it for me a little bit and let me know what your story inspirations are, where they come from.
So Lily is very much a Me Too movie. So when Me Too happened, I was like, I was so happy. So I'm like, shit, we can do this, we can come together, we can make stuff better. Like, my nieces won't have to go through the shit I went through, that's amazing. And I'm from Holland, I live in the US half the time, and I went back to Holland, and I love my country, but sometimes we're a little bit slow getting things. And so when I came back, I'm like, me too, guys, the world is better, do you feel it? And everybody's like, no. And it was like, seriously, people were like, oh, it's just actresses, they're overreacting. There was a me not statement even, I'm like, oh, this is... And I'm not a very eloquent speaker, and so when I get mad, I just kind of get very internal, and I don't really know how to express that, except by just grabbing a pen, and yes, I grab a pen, because I write on paper, and just start writing shit on paper, and then making it, and just kind of expressing it through that. And so the movie came about because I wanted to show what a Me Too situation feels like, but then end it with how I wish I could have ended most of those situations, and also as a thank you to the people that started Me Too, of like, yes, like let's change shit. And Izzy is very similar to this, and they're kind of like sister movies. and that it's another situation where I'm like, I wish I was able to speak up, and if I could, maybe this would happen. So that's where they're related. And they're both inspired by female goddesses. And so Lily is Lilith, Izzy is, of course, you. Izzy is Ishtar, and I sometimes feel like even in religion that you have like these very powerful females and they're kind of pushed to the back and we don't talk about them anymore, and I think they're super inspirational, and I just kind of want to latch onto that and add that in movies.
So again, it's a really good example of working through your feelings and your emotions and your experiences using horror as a metaphor for those. It's just the perfect genre for that. That's what I love most about horror, I think, is you can tell any story, but you can make it way more violent and crazy things can happen. Yeah. Whereas if you just tell that story and it's a drama, it's like, oh, and then I went back to work, you know. So.
There's a quote, I'm going to quote something because it makes me feel really smart. But I can't remember who actually said it, so less smart. But it was someone, I think it was the producers of Bad Hair, they made the movie and they were like, we make these movies so that people that don't know these fears are made aware that they exist, and that people that do know those fears feel that they're not alone. And I think horror is so incredibly important, genre in general, so important in doing exactly that.
Okay, Johnny, is there any way we could run clip number 13?
Miss Knox, it's almost time. Your audience is waiting. It is your moment, Ms. Knox. You're ready.
We will make this quick because Kristina does have to go. But Kristina...
I guess they have to go too.
So. Oh, you guys do too. How are we on time? What's the time? Are we...
5:26.
Ooh, okay. We'll do this really quick. This is your first feature film as director. You've been directing for a while. I remember when you went to film school. I've been following your directing career. And this is a super personal story to you. Tell us about this film as your personal story and why you made it.
Yeah, sure. Well, first I would like to say that, I minored in film. I can speak so loud. I minored in film, in 2001 in college, at Dartmouth College. I've been studying film and directing, and I was a videographer for many years. And then I decided it would be easier to be an actress. But I did go to film school, and in film school, it's 50-50, men and women, and I've been on lots of juries, which is why we have to leave to go to the jury, the prize selection, or prize giving out. There are almost, it's never 50-50. We have one film directed by a woman out of 14 in our section. So I'm not going to stop this fight until it's 50-50 in the movies that are out in the world, in all places. Theatrically, and I think everybody should think about it, that 50-50, we were 50-50 in film school. And I agree with what you said. I never thought about the disparity between men and women until I wanted to become a director, really seriously. And I was like, wow, this is horrifying, literally. This is a personal story. I broke my back 2 years ago, horseback riding. And I had just met my partner 3 months before, and the idea of having sex with him was hard after I broke my back. So it was more like, how do you continue a relationship when you broke your back with somebody that you really love and you still want to be connected to somehow? And I guess, of course, you could say just don't have sex, but that didn't happen. So that the movie is kind of just about my personal experience going through that, coming, you know, I guess surviving the accident, number one, and then surviving my relationship and figuring out how to navigate it.
And Kristina has to go because she's on the jury, so I'll let you go. But I just want to say, I've seen a cut of the film. I'm super excited for her. It's a long overdue for you to have a feature film as a director. And it's a really beautiful movie, so I really can't wait for the audience to get a chance to see it.
Yeah, hopefully next year, Fantasia.
Yeah. Okay. If we could go to clip number 12. Elizabeth, really quick. Your film, The Book of Birdie, deals with the idea of blood taboos. And how did you work through society's discomfort with blood in that film?
Well, I've had a really strong connection to bleeding since I was a kid. I had like constant bloody noses. It's been cauterized twice, and then when I got my women's curse, as they say in the movie, it was a big blessing, let's say. So I was fascinated with that blood when I was a kid, and I used to do things like let it drip into the sink and then just kind of start playing with it. And then when I made the leap from art department to directing, I thought, well, if this is my only chance to like say a story, do something I kind of want to deal with these taboo subjects and turn them into objects of fascination. And can I make something that feels horrible and disturbing and otherworldly, but still have it be not with killing, not with violence, but with things that are just coming out of our bodies and we perceive as disgusting, but turn it into something that's ritualistic and beautiful, and the character creates a whole religion around it and collecting it. So for me, that was just totally fascinating, and I wanted that kind of sensitive, small ritual feel to it, and also we had no money, so like that was made for like 20 grand I took a loan out for. So, you know, what could I do with like very, very small and a little bit of blood and a little bit of props in like one location with 8 women actors and like a 75% female crew, because those statistics really pissed me off, or I wouldn't have left the art department. And yeah, so just blood everywhere. It's so fun. And glitter. You can never have too much blood or too much glitter in movies. You guys are dismissed if you'd like to go to the jury thing. And I'll meet you guys there. Awesome. This is such a cool panel. Thank you all. So good to meet you. Yes, so let's go back to clip number 5.
It's a way of accessing all those layers of meaning that build up in a landscape, that build up in a culture, and that often build up unofficially.
It's a sort of illegitimate culture that has sustained just through sheer force of will of the people, you know, the folk.
Folk horror ultimately asks, what if the old ways were right?
So this documentary, I think maybe a lot of you have probably seen it. It had a really profound impact, I think, on the world of horror documentaries. And I love that this film started out as a special feature that grew out of your love and your passion for these films. Can you talk a little bit about how that happened, how it transformed from a special feature into its own thing? And then we have a part 2 where I want to talk about how you finally have a chance to express yourself fully as a documentary filmmaker and as a journalist in maybe ways that you haven't been afforded before. And if you could talk about that, that'd be great.
Okay, so yeah, I work for Severin Films. That's my day job. I work there as a producer, and I do acquisitions now. But at the time when this was made, I was really just an editor of special features, and I didn't even work full-time. I was a part-time worker there doing editing special features, and we were doing a limited edition of Blood on Satan's Claw, and we were importing all the extras over from the British release, and there weren't any plans to do anything new for our disc. So I said, well, why don't we just make something new, like one thing, like maybe a little featurette about folk horror? And my boss is like, well, what about it? And I was like, I don't like what it is, or like how it manifests in British film and television, because originally it was also just going to be focused on British stuff because it was in support of Blood on Satan's Claw. And so at that time I had not even produced extras, like I had not even been in the role where I was assigning work as a producer, so I was just an editor giving him an idea of something he could do. And he said, okay, go ahead. And I was like, go ahead and what? And he was like, make it. And I said, well, I don't know how to make things like that. I'm just like an editor. And he's like, of course you do. He's like, you could make it. He's like, who else is going to make it if not you? He's like, you probably know all the people that you would want to talk to for something like that, so you can just do it. And that was it. He just threw me in. It was like trial by fire. But still, I was thinking, 25-minute, 30-minute piece. And when I started interviewing people, I realized there's just way too much good stuff, and every time they would talk, it would kind of prompt other questions from me where I was like, oh, I really should talk about that, or have somebody to talk about that issue, or whatever. And so it just kept kind of growing and growing, and David Gregory, who owns Severin, just kept pushing me to keep going. Like, instead of saying, like, time is running out, we need this extra, he was like, you know what, we're just going to release the Blu-ray of Blood on Satan's Claw on its own. You just keep going. You just keep going. We're going to make it you can just make it like its own movie. And I was like, well, that's pretty scary, because the standards, like the expectations for the quality of a feature film are completely different than for an extra. For an extra, half the time, it's like if you can see the person on screen and it's like edited together slightly decently, it's fine. Nobody really has a lot of expectations beyond that. That's not to say we don't try our best to make amazing extras, but the expectations for a feature were totally different, and I did not feel that I was up to it. I just didn't know how to do that. But David really just encouraged me. Like, partially it was that he was encouraging me, partially he was just too busy to help me. So he was like, I just kind of had to figure out how to do it on my own, and luckily I brought in a lot of great collaborators in terms of, camera people, editors, composer, like just all these people I knew from being a film programmer and stuff for many years, and from also running the Miskatonic Institute of Horror Studies, where we would do like classes about horror. So a lot of the speakers in the film kind of came from that. And yeah, so it just grew into its own thing, and also because Severin is a distribution company and he knew that its intended goal was that it was going to be on a Blu-ray, he didn't care how long it was. So it just kind of kept getting longer and longer. And he was like, I don't care how long it is. Like, if you might care if you're going to submit it to a festival, because if it's like epically long, people won't play it. But I don't care as far as being the EP and it being on a Blu-ray. It doesn't matter. And so luckily, as it turned out, it was the year that COVID happened. And so then all of a sudden the festivals didn't care how long it was either, because it was playing online and people could just stop it or start it or whatever. And so I feel like if it hadn't been COVID, there was no way that film would have had a festival life, and it did because of that. So that was kind of how it came to be. But yeah, as for your other question about, it's basically connected to that, which is, I have been in this industry for 25 years. I started off as a Fangoria journalist and as a programmer. Started my own film festivals and stuff like this. And I always had to do things myself. It gets very tiring and very demoralizing to be your own cheerleader all the time. And then I got jobs that I thought were going to be really great and have a lot of great opportunities for me, but all that happened really was that every opinion I had was second guessed. I could literally, it was like the stereotype of like pitching an idea and somebody being like, that's not a great idea. And then my male coworker pitching literally the exact same idea and who is now has a piece of the company and is a millionaire. Yep. So that is a true story. But these kinds of things kept happening to me where I just was never, nobody could get behind my ideas, you know? So a lot of times I've done independent things. I've released books independently. I've done, you know, I always felt like I had to do everything myself or I couldn't get it done, but I also didn't have the resources to do things properly myself, you know? So I always felt like I couldn't really show people what I could do, what I was really capable of. Until I started working at Severin, and David Gregory, you know, not to make this about like celebrating men on a women's panel, David Gregory is really like a hero to me, you know, like, I mean, he's, you know, he runs an amazing label, but he also like, you know, we have a lot of women in important roles at Severin Films, and he has just put me on this track where I felt like this is where I should be, this is what I should be doing. He lets me, not only does he take my opinion seriously and let me pursue the projects I want to, but he gives those projects the money they need to do well. And all my life I always thought that my ideas were just not commercial, that my ideas just weren't good, that they were too niche and blah, blah, blah. But I found from working at Severin that really all it takes is the proper financing behind my ideas, and they actually are commercially successful. Like Severin made more money from my box set and my movie than like any other release that they did. So I do think it's just really important if you're on a team that's got a lot of men on it, you know, to really listen to the women in the room, because many of them do have brilliant ideas, and you got to put, like Heather says, you got to put your money where your mouth is. You got to put your money behind those people and give people the proper resources that it takes, because otherwise it just makes them look like they can't do things, right? So this is why people always think like women can't do things or whatever. It's because you don't actually give them the same resources that you give to the men. So my experience at Severin has kind of proven to me that it can work if you give the resources. So.
I want to say also, everybody, Kayla is basically a personal hero of mine, and has inspired me for many, many years. And I'm just love having her here. I love hearing her talk about anything. And I feel like your documentary is a beautiful extension of all the work you've done as a journalist and film historian. It's just like the icing on the cake of that. And you've had a really profound impact on not only the horror world, but on a lot of women. So thank you. This has been a very long panel, and our wonderful panelist, Lucía, has waited till the very end, and I'm so grateful to her for doing that. But someone had to go last, so I didn't know how to do that. If we could run clip number 14, please.
¿Qué pasa, que soy mujer y por eso no te puedo matar? Es que faltan referentes de asesinas en serie, ¿verdad? Siempre lo he pensado.
While I tie your hands, you'll understand. While I tie your hands, you'll understand. You hurt me so deeply, you gotta pay. You stepped in my life, now it's time to pray. Let me explain you the rules. No misunderstood. I got you here right now.
So That was a teaser for 3 separate short films that are all thematically related. I want to say one of my favorite scenes in anything ever is a person taking the time to put on like a visor so they don't get the blood on them when they're killing someone. And I realized that it's actually related to the question that I wanted to talk to you about, which is, in your films, you have a lot of violence. You have violence towards women, you have violence that women are committing against other people, and the way that, mainly men, and the way that you, and I'll go ahead and say, I don't think it's too much of a spoiler, but the films do have like a rape revenge theme. And rape revenge films that I think we're all familiar with tend to be really graphic, sexualized. I think often the characters are put in very uncomfortable situations that the actors have to act out. And personally, I don't really like watching that. Some people do, and I have no problem with people enjoying that, by the way. But it's just a personal preference. And Lucía, you have a certain way of making a rape revenge film that's different than the traditional manner. Can you talk a little bit about how you treat your female characters and your actresses when you're making these movies?
Yes, of course. The thing is like, rape and revenge is not you have, well, the common thing is to have a female as a victim and the man as a rapist. But is written by men and shooted by men. So it's like, okay. Mostly, okay, not always. For example, I don't know the name in English. El manantial de la doncella, Ingmar Bergman, one.
Oh. Virgin Spring.
Yeah. This is, when you watch, this is an old movie of Bergman, really good one. But in this movie, and for example, Thelma and Louise, there are female writers. And even with male directors, I can notice that something is different. Because they don't have like 5 pages of rape or something like that. And the thing is that sometimes that scenes at the end are in the porn sites is really crazy. But yeah, and in some of rape and revenge movies, they use a porn actress because they want to show the close up of the penis and the... Yeah. That's, so it's like, okay, no, I don't want to do that. It's like, I think it's not really sexy, or it's not sexy at all, and it's not beautiful at all to have a rape on screen. So if I shoot a rape, it's not going to be the point of view of men, but this is disgusting. It's like, even if the main character is a female, that is always the female point of view. When you have the rapist, you have the male point of view, and you have the how. Well, I can talk about that for hours.
But specifically, the way that you direct your women during a scene where there's violence against them, or during a scene where they're committing violence, like the fact that you have the visor, I have a feeling that maybe came from a desire to not get your female actress covered in blood.
Yeah,
like,
I think when you write, you have to think about everything, no? So you try to put in the shoes of every character. And if I am not going to kill anyone, but if you are writing and you have to think about killing someone in the script, I think, okay, it will be disgusting to have the blood in your face and in your body. So yeah, I prefer to cover the actress because if my character, yeah, it's like I don't want to have blood in my face, so I always put things to cover themselves because I think it's disgusting. It's true that if it's an accident, okay, if you kill someone by accident, if the characters kill someone by accident, you can be prepared, so maybe you have not comfortable clothes or you don't have anything to cover yourself. But for that reason, it's like when you see that in Dana, she's killing her attacker. So she was walking alone, and suddenly that guy attacked her. So it's an improvised thing. So she has the blood. But after, you know, she has time to think about it, and when she wants to kill someone, she uses the mask. It's a hairdress mask.
Yeah. I think it's a really, I've never seen that, by the way, in a movie about rape or rape revenge, or many movies at all, and I think it's really humanizing and adds a really beautiful element to your films. It's very thoughtful, and I think that's just something that comes from you as a director that's special. So.
But it's not only rape and revenge. Marta is not, she kills skinny people. It's not, you know,
yeah.
Skinny.
It's not just rape.
It's not, they have poor people. But the thing is that she's crazy, so she killed them. So, and she wear comfortable clothes. And if you have to bury somebody, you know, it's like you have to have a ponytail. How do you say?
Yeah. Hair back. You want to wear comfortable shoes.
Yeah, comfortable shoes. And you don't want to. Well, you can wear whatever you want if your character have to bury someone. But for me, it's like, okay, I will avoid the shoot of the breast with all the blood. And it's like, no, I would. Because I don't want to have like I don't want to sexualize the violence against women. And I always say to the directors that I write in slashers, my friends, I say to them, okay, if you are going to kill people, you have to invest the same time killing the men than women. Because I am tired of seeing like 5 minutes killing of a woman and 10 seconds, 1 second, killing the man. And it's like, okay, kill everyone in the school.
All right, you guys, I know this has been a long panel, and I have to let all of our panelists go before they die of dehydration. But I'm so grateful that you guys were here. And I hope that this little glimpse was, just gives you an idea of how important it is to listen to filmmakers' stories, to record their stories. You know, it's easy to talk about women in horror, but they're all completely individual directors with their own ideas and their own films that are very different from one another. And to me, that's so beautiful. And if we record and remember and listen to their stories, then that's something that we get to keep with us forever. So thank you guys so much for this. Oh, and I want to throw out there, speaking of getting things financed, I do actually have a documentary version of my book that's in development, and so if anybody ever wanted to talk about money, about it, I'd be happy to discuss that with them. So.